channel. My name is Melissa and today's tutorial is going to be on a cardigan. I'm calling it the Alpine cardigan. But we are going to be doing this in one of two styles. So this will be a video for one and there will be a second video for the other. We can do it either widthways or you can work it long ways. You can have it short, you can have it really long like a jacket. But first, if you enjoy my content and want to support my channel, you can buy me a coffee at the link in the description below. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. For this video, it will be the long version. And as you can see here, I've done it really long. Now for that jacket cardigan, because it's really long, so I thought I'd call it a jacket cardigan, I used these. Now this was for the body. It was Lincraft Cakes. This one's called Blushed. And as you can see, it does a very pretty pink, brown, white colour. This required a 5.5mm hook for me, and that is what I worked that cardigan in. The edging is Amigo Hobby extra large. This is 100 grams, and I used 6 balls of this, and I used 4 balls of this to create a very big cardigan. Big as in very long, and also it's size 14 to 16. The length, I'm a 5'6", so, and as you can see, it nearly touched the ground for me. You can adjust this to any length you like. We will go through how you will do this, and you can also make it out of any yarn you have in your stash. So the reason why I picked these is because I had it in my stash and I wanted a contrasting color from this to this. You might not want that. You can keep it all in one color. You can keep the colors really close, so I could have picked any of these colors if I had it in my stash and do that as the border. It is purely up to you how you would like to design your cardigan. So what I will be using for this cardigan in this tutorial is this yarn here, which is Yarnspiration Caron cakes. Now I believe you can buy this all over the world. I bought mine from Spotlight, and I actually did a unbagging of this and other colors, so I will be using this color, which is called Buttercream. Now I will be using a 5.5mm hook, the same as what I did with the cardigan that you see at the beginning of the video. However, this is thicker yarn, so I won't be doing it as many chains. So we will run through this, but generally, if you have a thicker yarn, you shouldn't need as many stitches. If you have a thinner yarn, you will need more stitches. So this will be the body of the cardigan, and it will have a stripe effect the same as the one at the beginning of the tutorial. And to complement it with the edging, we are going to do a different color again. I'm not going to stick with this as the edging, but you can do whatever color you like for the edging. You don't have to make it contrasting. You don't have to make it a similar color. You can use the same yarn as you've used for the body of your cardigan. The choice is completely yours. But what I'm going to do is I'm picking out this color here, this pinky color, and I am going to use this, which is a little similar to that one there. So this one here is called Lamia Retweed, and I bought this from Hobium. So that is a Turkish company. And this one I will be using the same hook, the 5.5mm hook. It did recommend it here, and I'm sticking with that. And this is 100 grams and 185 meters. For this cardigan, the I'm looking at using about 4 balls of this. You need about 600 meters if you're doing the very long jacket style cardigan that I will be doing in this tutorial. And for this one here, I will be requiring about 1400 meters, and I will be using about 4 balls of this yarn here. This yarn is a 200-gram yarn. It is 350 meters. Both are wools blends. What else you will be needing are your hooks. I always start out my project with a hook that is a size higher. So this is my 6.5 millimeter hook. And the body of the work will be worked in my 5.5 millimeter hook. They both have come from Furls. We also will need our scissors, tape measure. This is to measure the armholes. A needle. And stitch markers. Okay, so let's get this project started. Okay, so grabbing your main color ball of yarn, find the end. And this is the part where you need to trial and error to see how long you would like to make it. First of all, get a long tail, because that's what we're going to sew up the edge with. Do yourself a slip knot, place on your hook and chain. Now I'm going to chain about 200 stitches, and then I will trial it over my shoulder. Now we are working long ways. Now this means that we are working from our body bottom, as in from our knee or how long we want it to be, going up and around our shoulder and down the other side. So we are working very long from one side of the body to the other side of the body. So that is why your chain needs to be so long. So once you have got your chain at a certain length, so for me, I'm going to trial 200 stitches. I'm going to place this over my shoulder, so fold it in half, place it over my shoulder and see how long it goes. Now it will stretch longer than the chain shows you. So add a couple of centimeters or inches, depending on where you are, and that should be the length that you require. Okay, so I have done my very long chain. I did 200. So throw it over your shoulder. Make sure you've gone halfway and measure it down to as far as you want. So I am going to go down to my knee, and I know it's going to stretch a little bit. So I fold it in half, put it over my shoulder, and it is going to my knee. So I am happy with that. So I've done 200 stitches, but as I said, on the one you see at the beginning of the video, I did 250 for that one. It was not as thick yarn. We have our chain. As I said, it's 200 stitches that I did, and in all my excitement in telling you all about the chain, I forgot to tell you, we're starting off with our 6.5 millimeter hook, and that is only what I do the chain in. It just makes it a much more even finish. And now we're going to change to our smaller size hook, which is the 5.5 millimeter hook. Now, as I said, we are working in the length, and that's what the chain is, in the length from the bottom of my knee over my shoulder to the back of my knee is where my chain at the moment goes. It will get a little bit longer as we work the stitches up. And we are just doing a very simple stitch of half double crochet. So at the end of your chain, do an extra chain, turn your work upside down. So you see here, there are the V's, and on the back you have the little lumps the little loops there. We're working our stitches for this row in the back of our V's into those loops. We are doing half double crochet for the body of the work. So yarn over, miss that first chain, going into that second chain. So not into that one you just did, into the second one. Put your hook through the loop, grab your yarn, pull it through, then grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over into the next back of that chain, that loop there. Grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And you repeat this for the entire length of your chain. When you get to the end of your chain, you should have 200 stitches if you're following along with me. If you have made your chain a different length, make sure that it is the amount of stitches that you set out in the beginning. Okay, I will meet you at the end of this row. We are coming to the end of the row. A couple more stitches to do, and make sure you put a stitch right in that last chain there. Then chain 1, turn your work and continue your half double crochets. Now the amount that you will require is around about 24 centimeters, and that is for a large, as in about a size 14 to 16 female Australian size. As you saw in the video at the beginning of me wearing that cardigan, I am a 14 to 16, and that fitted me perfectly. To do it less width, what I would do is put it against your chest, going along your chest, and have it so that it, excuse the language, that it covers over half your breast, because you want the width for your band. So you need, it would be like half. I hope that makes sense. So just line it up over throw it over your shoulder, and when it's at that width, that's about coming across half of your breast, then that should be the width that you require. Now if you're doing the same size as me, 24 centimeters is what I'm doing. That will be roughly 23 rows, but I will tell you precisely because this is a different yarn to what I used before, and every yarn is going to be different. So this is why I'm giving you the measurement for this size, or how to do it if you are a smaller or a bigger person. All right, so keep working away. Do the width required that you need. So remember, this is working long way, so you're working, this will be the width of your cardigan. Okay, so we're working width ways. We're going up and down, but we want to measure the width. So as I said, 24 centimeters for size 14 to 16. All right, I will meet you back here when I have measured that amount and tell you how many rows that I did. Finished my 24 centimeters of half double crochet. Now if you're curious, with this yarn for me it was 20 rows that I did, but it depends on you, your gauge, and what yarn you are using for this project. So 24 centimeters. Now what we need to do is now get the number of stitches that you did and halve that amount. So for me, 200 stitches for me, so half that amount is 100. Now if you have an odd number of stitches, then halve it and you'll have 2 different amounts. So the amount that is higher, so let's say that you had 165 stitches, you need to halve that, it would be 82.5. Obviously that's not going to work, so you would have one as 83 and one as 82. Mark your 83 stitches. So go the most stitches. So it'll make sense in a minute. So for me, 100. So I start from where I finished off and I count 100 stitches all the way along. And then at my 100th stitch, put a stitch marker. So if you had an odd number of stitches, the higher amount, so for example, as I was saying, 165, so 83 stitches and 82, 83, put your stitch marker at the 83 stitch. This, from where you finished off up to your stitch marker, is now going to continue on working and that becomes your back panel. This will then create an opening for the front, and we will continue at a later date with doing a decorative panel around for the front here. So hopefully that makes sense. So what we're going to do now is work up and back from the stitch marker, from where we finished off to the stitch marker, and we're going to work 19 centimeters. So all you need to do now is chain 1, turn your work, very long work, and keep doing your half double crochet to the stitch marker. Now I'm at the stitch marker and I'm going to include that stitch in, that is my 100th stitch. Now chain 1, turn your work, and just keep doing your half double crochets backwards and forwards up to this point. So only your half your amount of stitches, so for me it's 100 stitches, until you've done 19 centimeters from the stitch marker up. When you have done that, come back here and I'll show you what to do next, and I'll tell you how many rows that I did for my 19 centimeters. Finished the rows here, the 19 centimeters here. I ended up doing 17 rows in total for this, and you want to make sure that you end up with your finishing your yarn here on the inside. So what we're going to do now is chain the same amount of rows as you have here, which is 100, making it back up to the 200 rows, that stitches that I had before, because we're going to match this panel here with one over here. All right, so I've turned this around and I've put my hook back in, and now I'm going to chain 100 stitches. So I've had my 100 here that I've been working on. I'm going to do another 100 in a chain, bring this back up to 200 so I can work my second front panel. Hope that makes sense. So let's chain 100 stitches. So we have our chain of 100. And now we are going to do one more chain, and same as what we did when we started this project, we are going to put our stitches in the back of each of our chains here. So turn your chain over, missing that chain 1 extra that we did, yarn over and go straight into that loop on the back. Grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And again, yarn over, going into that loop in the back of your chain, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So keep working your stitches into each of the chains until you get to the last chain. And I'll meet you back here when you've done that. Okay, coming to the last one on the chain. It can always be a bit tricky. There we go. And then just keep working your half double crochets as normal. Oh, I think I've missed one. Yep, I've missed one. There we go. There we go. Now continue half double crocheting as normal till the end of your work. Now this is going to make row 1. So there is row 1. And you need to just keep half double crocheting and repeat the same amount of rows as you did on the other side, the other front panel. So for me that was 20 rows, so I'm going to continue with my 20 rows. So this is number 1 row, and now I just need to do another 19 after this. So after I've done my complete 20 rows, I will come back here and show you what to do next. We have now finished the second front panel. So this is front panel number 2, front panel number 1. It is very large, can't fit it in the camera. But what we need to do now is attach the front panel to the back panels. And we need to finish off. So now we will not be crocheting until we get to the arms, but we need to sew up the sides first. So let's get on to the arms, but first of all, to finish off this side, leave yourself a very long tail because that's what you're going to sew up the side with. Get your scissors, snip off the end, and just bring it through. Okay, so there we have the body of our cardigan now finished. Alright, so for the next step, what we need to do is mark out the armholes. So bring one of your, first of all, check what is your inside or your outside of your cardigan, because you want to have it outside facing up, because you want your seam to be on the inside. So sorry, you want the inside of your cardigan to face out. Now what I do, because when you crochet it doesn't matter what side it is, so what I do is I make sure all my tails are on the one side, and that is going to become my inside, because I'm going to sew in all my tails, and if it does, you don't want it to see any sew-ins, so I put them on the inside. And then I also put a stitch marker at the neckline, just so I remember once it's all sewed in that this is the inside. So where my stitch marker is, that's the inside of my cardigan. So now that I know that, and I've got this facing inside out, as in this will be the inside of my cardigan, I am going to line up one of my panels with the back. So that's the edge, the outside edge. That's the inside edge. You can see because there is my neck, and it's very, very hard to show you when it's so big. So there's my neck, there's one side, there's the other side. So what we are going to do is line that up. So I want my edges together, and then line that up along, and I need to measure for my armhole. Okay, so I've lined up my side, so that's where my armhole is going to be, but I need to measure this. So it is going to be a 22 centimeter wide gap. Line it up to your edge, go down your 22 centimeters, and get your stitch marker and place your stitch marker. Once you have marked up and checked your armholes are 22 centimeters, then we need to sew up the sides here. So grab your yarn needle and you should have had the tail that you left when you started the project. You left yourself a long tail, and then join the edge together and just start sewing up the sides. Now this one is quite easy because you can see all your stitches along the side here. So what I do is I just take up each stitch, but I go from the insides of each stitch, and this will leave a nice edge on the inside, sorry, the outside of your cardigan. And you can see I'm working flat. So when I sew flat. So with it like so that you get a nice edge and you don't have that big lump you have if you sew like that. Then this would stick out, and I just find it's a neater finish. So I'm going to leave you to sew up your sides, and when you have finished that, I will show you what to do next. Now that you have sewn up your sides, a little tip on your second sleeve. So the sleeve that you will do second, I would suggest leave the tail. So when you finish sewing it up, don't sew the tail in, leave it. Now the reason why is because when you do your first round, you will count the number of stitches that you have, and then you need to repeat the exact same number of stitches on your other sleeve. Sometimes it doesn't work out to be exactly the same. So when you go and do your base layer of stitches for your arm, it might be 65 and you have 64, or it might be 65 and you have 66. So being able to sew up an extra stitch or take apart will help get this even to your second sleeve. Now I've already done one sleeve to show you how it would look like. So this, once again, very hard to show you stuff when it's so big. So this is one of the sleeves, and we are going to trim the end with our other yarn and do the Alpine stitch for the cuff. Now you do not have to do this. You can continue doing your half double crochets all the way down, or you can change this to any stitch you like, from bubble stitch, half double crochet, single crochet, in the round, seed stitch, I don't know, anything you like. But this, I'm calling it my Alpine cardigan, because this is the Alpine stitch, and it gives such a gorgeous feel to it. And when you get it at a certain angle, you can see the pattern quite clearly there. Now apparently it's called an Alpine stitch because these look like the pine trees in the Alpine. I just really like the effect on it. Alright, so let's get started on doing the other sleeve. Okay, so I'm at the armhole, and I want to work from the back side around, not the front side around. So I want to start on this side, not that side. The reason why is because I want the seam to be more towards the back. Even though it's going to be under the arm, I don't want it to be seen at all. So what I do is I always go to the stitch that is closest to the seam, and I put my hook in. So it's quite nice doing this the long ways, because you have the stitches and it makes it really easy to put your base layer on for your sleeve. So grab your yarn, and then just start putting your stitches into the stitch below and work your way around. Now for my other sleeve, it was 41 stitches, so I need to make sure that I have 41 stitches for this sleeve as well. Now the amount of stitches you have is purely however you've measured this up, what size yarn you're using, what your tension is. There is no hard and fast rule of how many stitches will be here. You just need to make sure whatever stitches you do on your first sleeve, you need to do exactly the same amount of stitches on your second sleeve. So I always make a note. I jot it down. So I knew that my first sleeve was 41 stitches. I know that this sleeve I have to do 41 stitches. Okay, so I've done my base chain. However, I've got too many stitches, so I am going to have to undo this, sew up one more row, and then redo it again. So I'll come back to you when I've done that. Right, I now have my 41 stitches. It can be a bit fiddly, but you need to have them matching. Okay, so now I have done row 1. I need to join my rows together. We're not working in the round. It will actually create a different pattern and a different look, and we want to stick to this look. So we're working backwards and forwards, and I always finish my last stitch in the same stitch below as my first stitch of this round. So you can see both of them are in that one stitch below. It just makes, I find, it makes a really nice even look up your seam. So we join the row together via a slip stitch. So just go to the top of the first stitch of the round. So you can see there's my stitch and there's the top of it there. And I'm just going straight into that stitch. Grab my yarn and pull it through, and then pull through the loop on my hook. Tighten everything up, chain 1 and turn your work. Now you might look here and go, oh my god, there's a big gaping hole here, what am I going to do? Don't worry about that, that is going to be sewn up. That's what we leave the long tails for, so we can sew up that gap. And it will look really neat, and it's also going to be in the armpit, so nobody's going to see it. Okay, so now we've turned our work, and we are going to continue with our half double crochet for a total of 4 rows. So this is row number 1, and what I do is I always put a stitch marker in that first row so I know where I started my sleeve. And then I will not go into that stitch there. So you can see where my chain comes from. There's a stitch there. Sometimes when you do this, it's really tiny, like it looks like that, like this little tiny hole. That's still your first stitch. This one's quite obvious. Yarn over and go into the second stitch. And just continue your half double crochets. Now another tip, always count. Always count. When I do sleeves, I always seem to lose a stitch somewhere along the line if I don't count. So I'm always counting my stitches. We are going to be decreasing as we go along. And keep a note somewhere of what stitch you're up to, how many stitches you're up to, so that you don't get yourself lost. There's one reason why sleeves are not my favorite thing. So work around your 41 stitches or whatever your original stitch count is, and I'll meet you back at the end of the row. Alright, so I'm at the end of round number 2, and I've just got one more stitch, and I wanted to show you, here's that first stitch of the lower row that I put it in there. So now I want to put this last stitch of the round into that same stitch there of the first stitch of the round. So there you go, you can see both stitches are in that one stitch. And then we slip stitch together, so there's my first stitch of the round. I'm putting my hook at the top of that stitch and pull the yarn through and through the loop on the hook. Chain 1, turn your work. So as I said before, don't worry about what looks like a big gaping hole there. We are going to sew that up later. If it is bothering you now, you can sew it up right now. That's absolutely fine. So round 3, missing that first stitch there, going into this one here, half double crochet your amount of stitches. For me it was 41, and counting them again, and then I'll meet you at the end of round 3. At the end of my round 3, I'm doing my last stitch in the same hole or stitch below as my first stitch, then going into the top of that first stitch of the round to join it together with a slip stitch, chain 1, turn your work, and we're doing round 4, missing that first stitch again, going into the second, and I am repeating my 41 stitches, and you will be doing the same amount of stitches as whatever it is for you. And now I am at the end of my 4th round. Here's my last stitch again, and then joining my row together with the slip stitch, chain 1, turn your work. This is where it changes slightly. So we're doing a decrease on every 5th round. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This next round is going to be a 5th round. So this next round is a decrease. So what we need to do, missing that first stitch again, we go yarn over, straight into that next stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, go into the next stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then grab a yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook. That is your decrease stitch. Then we will be continuing half double crochets as normal, and if you have the same 41 stitches as me, you will now be down to 40 stitches. So you will be going 1 less stitch on every 5th round. So now I'm on 40 stitches, and what I do at this point is I put a stitch marker in this 5th round, so I know where I decreased, and then I know that from the next round up will be my non-decrease round for the next 4 rounds, and then the 5th round will be a decrease. I will grab another stitch marker and put it in there and repeat the process. So for now, let's just continue on with this round, and I should end up with 40 stitches because I've decreased 1. I'm at the end of my decrease round, and I'm doing my last stitch in the same stitch below as the first stitch, as we've been doing, and then joining the row together, doing your slip stitch at the top of the first stitch of the round, chain 1, turn your work, and continue as normal. And now this will be 4 rows with 1 stitch less, which was for me 40. So I need to do 4 rows with my 40 stitches. So I have come to the end of my first round of the next 4 of non-decrease, and once again going back into that same stitch as I started this round with, slipping the round together, chain 1, turn your work. So continue doing your next 3 rounds, so you have 4 rounds of non-decreasing, and I will run through the next decrease round after that. Finished those 4 rounds, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So my next round is going to be a decrease round. So chain 1, turn your work, and the decrease again is miss that stitch there, yarn over, go into the next stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, going into the next stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook, and there is your decrease. Then continue on. Now for me that should now bring me down to 39 stitches, so I will count and make sure I've got 39 stitches. So yes, I do have 39 stitches. I'm going to join my round together, chain 1, turn my work. Before I move on, I am going to put my stitch marker in to that row that I've just completed. That makes my set of 5. So you will see that you will have a row of stitch markers going up. So you don't count this one here because that was just an indicator to tell me that was my first row of the sleeve. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease round. Put the stitch marker in. 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease round, putting my stitch marker in. Now I'm going to continue doing this for a total of 30 rounds, and that will equal to 6 decreases. I should end up with 35 stitches by the time I have finished that. What it will be for you, I'm not sure because I don't know how many stitches you started off with. But make sure that you have done 30 rows in total, so 5, 10, so on and so forth, and it will equate to 6 decreases. All right, I am going to leave you to continue on with that, and I will meet you back here at your 30th finished row. Okay, so I'm up to the last row of my sleeve, but I'm not going to join it together just now to finish this off because I'm going to now join my contrasting colour so I can do the cuff. Now, as you can see from the rest of my sleeve, you can see that I have put all my stitch markers to count. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 rows of half double crochet in this yarn. I want to do a contrasting colour for my cuff, like here you'll see on this sleeve here, and this is Alpine stitch. So I'm going to do that. You do not have to do that. As I mentioned before, you can continue in this for another 10 rows, or you can do any colour cuff you like and any stitch you like. But for this one, we are doing Alpine stitch. And just as a refresher, I'm using this yarn, Lamia Retweed, and this is from Hobium. It is a wool blend, but you can use anything that is the same weight. All right, so what we're going to do now is snip the end off so you have your tail. And where you would slip stitch together, just put your hook straight in. And you are going to get your new yarn. And you're going to slip that through. Slip it through the loop on your hook. Chain 1. Turn your work. And that is joining the new yarn. These tails will go on the inside, so you can sew them on the inside. And then we are going to commence doing the Alpine stitch. Now, it might seem complicated. It isn't. It's quite a simple stitch. So, put the yarn over. You're going to do, for this very first row, is a row of double crochet. So, yarn over, into the first stitch. You're still missing that gap there, that first stitch there, you're still missing that. Go into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through. Grab your yarn, pull through the first 2 loops on the hook. Grab your yarn and pull through the second 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over. Go into the next stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through. Grab your yarn, pull through the first 2 loops on the hook. And then yarn over and through the last 2 loops on the hook. So that is your double crochet, and you will be doing your double crochet for every stitch on this first row of your cuff. When you come to the end of that round, the same as you've always been doing, put your last stitch in the first stitch of the round. So do your double crochet like so. Then you are going to slip stitch together the round like you have always been doing. Chain 1, turn your work. Now for every row on the inside of your sleeve, it is going to be a single crochet. So every row for the inside of your sleeve, single crochet. So miss that first stitch there and do a single crochet. So hook straight into the stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, yarn over and grab your yarn and pull through the 2 loops on the hook. Hook straight into the next stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, and yarn over and yarn, pull it through the 2 loops on your hook. So that is your single crochet, and you will be doing that all the way around for this round and every round when you're got the inside of the sleeve facing you. At the end of the round, the same thing again, putting your last stitch in the first stitch of the round. Then slip stitch the round together, chain 1, turn your work. Now this is where the pattern truly starts, because this is where you're going to be doing a combination of double crochet and front post double crochet or treble crochet. So missing that first stitch, and this is the first one I need to look at. I'm going to do my front post treble crochet. So the way, I hope this will make sense, but the way I look at it is there is my double crochet from before, and I am going to start this round doing that as my front post treble crochet. The next stitch becomes a double crochet, the next a treble front post, double crochet, treble front post, double crochet, treble front post, so on and so forth. And what it'll end up doing is giving you this stitch. So you can see how it comes out and goes in, out, and that is the effect that you will be working towards. So when you start off, miss that first stitch again, go to this next one here and follow down, and there's your first post. Wrap the yarn around your hook twice, going into that stitch, that hole, that stitch there, that gap, and there's your post, and go in and behind and come out of it on the other side. So there's that hole, there's the second hole, there's your post. You're going in, behind, and through. Then grab your yarn and pull it towards you behind that post. Then you will be yarn over through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over through the next 2 loops on your hook, and yarn over through the last 2 loops on your hook. And you will see that it has this effect of pushing that post forward and sitting on top of your work, which gives you that lumpy effect. So then you go to your next post here, and you see the stitch above there. So there's your next post, there's the stitch. So yarn over, and you're going to be doing a double crochet. So straight into that stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn, pull through the first 2 loops on the hook, grab a yarn, pull through the next 2 loops on the hook. So you can see you've got your treble crochet front post there, and your half double crochet on top of that stitch there. The next one is going to be your treble crochet front post. So yarn over twice, go in and behind that post, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn, pull through the first 2 loops on the hook, grab a yarn, next 2 loops, grab a yarn, last 2 loops on the hook. Next stitch, half double crochet, and then the next stitch is the front post again. So I always double check, constantly double check. It's so easy to go wrong. So I'm always double checking that I've got, there's my front post, there's the double,
there's my front post, there's the double. Front post is going into this one. So yarn over twice, straight behind that post, grab a yarn, pull it through, and then 1, 2, 3. Next stitch, double crochet. Next stitch, treble, so 1, 2, go behind, 1, 2, 3. Next stitch, double. Next stitch, treble. 1, 2, 3. So double checking that I got it right. Yes, 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 yes. So I'm always checking to make sure that I haven't missed. It's so easy. So continue doing that until you get back to the beginning of this round, and I will meet you there. Okay, so I'm on my last stitch here, and I've double checked to make sure that I am correct and I haven't made any boo-boos. It is so easy. So my last stitch is actually going to be a front post, but look, it just depends on how many stitches you have and what happened, whether it becomes a double crochet or your front post treble. I'm on my front post treble, so yarn over twice, going behind, grab my yarn, pull it through, 1, 2, 3. And now I'm ready to join the top of the row together. So slip stitch it together, chain 1, turn my work. And remember, on the back or the inside of the sleeve, we're always going to be doing a single crochet round, so missing that first stitch, and just single crochet all the way around on this round. Okay, at the end of the round, putting the last stitch in the first stitch of the round, slip stitching together, chain 2, turn your work. Okay, so we're going to miss that stitch there like normal, and the next stitch is here. Now this is where it can get a little bit tricky, but once you've got these basic rules, it's straightforward. So the way I look at it is that you can obviously see is my front post treble. That you can tell is my double crochet. So the double crochet always sits in, the front post trebles always sit out. So my first stitch is here above my front post treble. This is telling me that stitch has to be a double crochet. This stitch here is my double crochet stitch from the rounds before. So this tells me that next stitch is a treble, front post treble. Half double crochet, front post treble, half double crochet, front post treble on top. So I always look at my previous round to know what I'm doing in the next round. So for this, I am starting with my double crochet on top of my front post treble. So yarn over, straight into that stitch, grab yarn, pull it through, grab yarn, pull through the first 2 loops on the hook, and then grab yarn through the next 2. This one here, that was my double crochet from before, so now I'm going to be doing my treble front post. 1, 2, going behind that post there, grab a yarn, pull it through, 1, 2, 3. Next one, double crochet. 1, 2. Next one, because that's our double crochet from before, is going to be our treble front post. 1, 2, 3. Then your double. Then your treble. 1, 2, 3. Then your double. And as you can see, you get into the rhythm of it. Now, once again, it's really easy to lose your place and think you know where you're at, especially if your mind goes wandering. So always stop periodically and check back, and it should look a little bit like that. So you can see that they're now staggering. That's the front post treble from this round, and you can see it staggered down to the one from the last round. There you go. So that's what we're doing for this round. So just double check that you've got it lined up and it's looking correct, and periodically do that the whole time around. So now I'm on my half double crochet and treble. Okay, at the end of the row, and if I've got this right, this stitch here should be my double crochet because my stitch previously was a treble front post. And yes, I am all right. Just remember, constantly check to see you've got them all lined up correctly. So I'm going to do my double crochet, join my round together with a slip stitch, chain one, turn my work, missing that first stitch and doing my single crochets around on this row because of course I'm on an inside round. Inside of the cuff round, single crochet. Here we are again at the end of the round. Remember, last stitch in the same stitch as the first stitch of the round. Slip stitch it together, chain two, turn your work, and now missing that first stitch there, I come to the next stitch. I see underneath that next stitch is my double crochet, which tells me that this stitch that I've got to do next is my treble front post. So yarn over twice, go behind that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then 1, 2, 3. Next stitch, double crochet, next stitch, treble. And that is how you do all your rows for this. So that is your pattern. And when you get the hang of it, it is quite simple, and I love the effect that it gives. Just double check that you haven't misplaced your stitches. It is so easily done. So periodically go back and check. Now, we want to have for this cuff 5 lots of Alpine. So what these are here are supposed to be the Alpines, and I want 5 lot. So I've done 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do after this round another 2. When you have finished that, come back here and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, I'm on the last stitch there of my final lot of Alpine. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's all I want to do for my cuff. So I am just going to slip stitch that together and just snip off the yarn, pull that through, and then sew in all my ends. So once you have finished that cuff, you have finished that sleeve, and you need to go and do a second sleeve. After you've finished both your sleeves, come back here and we're going to start doing the edging of the front of the cardigan. Time to do the edging of the front of the cardigan. Now, you need to know which is your front and your back, and that should be easy now that you have completed your sleeves. I'm yet to sew in the ends. And then you know that this is the front. So just follow your sleeve around to the front of your cardigan and lay it on its side like so, with the front facing out to you. Now that you have the front of your cardigan, the facing outwards towards you, you will be casting on at the bottom down here. So join your yarn, however you join your yarn, chain 2, and you will be doing half double crochets all the way around this first round. So it is quite easy here because this just looks like a previous stitch. So you're literally doing your half double crochets straight on that previous stitch. So that's quite simple. But when you get to the neck part, you will see that your stitches change from the normal looking stitch to being at the end of the rows. So what I do is I put a stitch on top of every second hole. So you can see here, there's a stitch there, and there, sorry, a row there and there and there. So I go, one stitch will go in here, I miss that hole there, I put another stitch in there, I miss that hole there, put another stitch there, miss stitch, so on and so forth, all the way along. It doesn't matter what where they're placed or whatever, just as long as it looks even along that neck edge. As I said, along here is dead easy because you've already got the stitches. You're just putting a stitch on top of a stitch. But around the neck, you're going to have to create where they go. And just make sure that it is even. Okay, I'm going to leave you to create your half double crochet stitches groundwork here for this border, and I will meet you when you're all the way around to the other end. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of this first round of our banner or decorative edging for our cardigan. So I just got the one more stitch to put in. So just put this stitch right in the corner here, right in the edge. Then chain one, turn your work, and yes, you guessed it, you will be doing your single crochets all the way around on this row. And remember, every time you get to the back of your work, it will always be a single crochet row. And this time you will be putting a stitch in that first stitch. So single crochets all the way around for this row, row number 2, and I will meet you at the end of the row. At the end of row 2, our single crochet row, we're going to do our last stitch right in the corner there of that first stitch of the first row. So just do your single crochet straight into there. Chain 2 and turn your work. Okay, so for this row, what we're doing is we are missing that first stitch there, and we are going to go to this first stitch here. And we're going to do our triple crochet front double post. Sorry, triple double post crochet. All right, so remember how you're doing that, which is yarn over twice, go straight in behind that stitch there, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then 1, 2, 3. And as you already know, the second stitch will be a double crochet. The next stitch, you treble, double crochet, front post treble, double crochet, front post treble, there we go. You can see the pattern already starting, and keep doing that for the whole time around. And then when you get to the end of the row, I will meet you there. At the end of row 3, how you finish off this row will depend on how many stitches you have. So here is my treble front post. Now I've got 2 stitches left, this one and the edge one. So because of this one is going to be my double crochet, and then I'm going to put another double crochet at the edge. Now if I had this third stitch from the end here being a double crochet, so let's say that was a double crochet, then that would be my treble front post, and that would be a double crochet. So I hope that makes sense. So because I've got a treble front post here, I am now going to do the double crochet here, and then my last stitch right in the corner there is also going to be a double crochet. Okay, so you chain 1, turn your work. Because we're on the inside, this is always going to be our single crochets, and we always put a stitch right in that very first one there, and continue doing your single crochets all the way to the end. Coming to the end of the 4th row, and just do your last single crochet in the end, chain 2, turn your work, and you probably have already guessed what you need to do. Alright, so you can see here there's our row of first chains, and then you have your treble front post. So in the top of that one, because that's our first stitch, we are going to do our half double crochet. And then in our next one is our treble, and you know the pattern from here. Doing our double, our treble front, our double, treble front, and so on and so forth. So the trick for this is that when you see the start of each row, so each row that you're doing from the front here, when you see the start, so if it looks like this, this is going to be your next stitch on top of that is going to be your front post treble. If it starts like this with your front post treble, the next stitch on top is going to be your half double crochet. And you just keep repeating that all the way up. Now I would suggest you do 8 rows of your Alpine stitch. So we've done 2 so far, and we need to do another 6. Do that as minimum. Then try it on and see if that's wide enough for you. If it isn't, keep going with more rows. If it is, stop. I am going to do my 8 rows of Alpine stitch, and then I will meet you back here and show you what it looks like and whether I will go on further or not. So keep going with the pattern, and I'll meet you here when you have finished that. And here we go. The band is now finished. I did end up only doing the 8 rows of Alpine, so the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can do as many or as little as you like, but that worked really well. So take a look at this. So that is now the cardigan finished. I'm really happy with the results, and very thick and cozy. If you have enjoyed my crochet tutorial, please feel free to check out all my others. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I have plenty of more of these tutorials, from beanies to bigger items such as this cardigan. If you would like to support me in any way, please feel free to buy me a cup of coffee. All the links are down in the description below. Thank you everyone for coming along with me on this journey, and hopefully I will see you at a crochet tutorial very soon. Bye everyone!